Back there, EJ, sorry. There's some red Bibles in the back. You can grab some. Some of you guys have them on your phone. Do you have them on your phone? Or are you just playing video games?
He has it on his phone.
Do you have one on your phone? Awesome. Just checking. So Genesis is in the very beginning. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. First 5 books called the Torah. And we're going to be looking at Genesis chapter 33, if you have your Bibles. Genesis is a great book, and it goes through the creation story. It goes through something called the patriarchs, like the early founders of our faith. And there's this guy named Abraham who gets called out, goes from Canaan into the wilderness, goes to this place called the Promised Land, and he has these sons and grandsons. And we're picking up with Jacob, who's one of the grandsons. And he has a brother named Esau. Now raise your hand if you have a brother or sister. Most probably have brothers and sisters, the siblings. Well, we have here what's called a sibling rivalry. Okay? And what happens with Jacob and Esau is they are constantly fighting each other. They were born twins. And they're born twins, and it literally says that Jacob grabbed the foot of Esau on the way out. They called him the grabber. That's what Jacob stands for, the grabber or the wrestler. And so from the very beginning, when they're in their mother's womb, they begin fighting each other. Now raise your hand again if you've ever fought your brother or sister. Do you have any good fight stories? Anybody ever have a really good argument about something stupid lately? Do you have one in the back? Go ahead. Do you have a good fight story or anything you argue with your spouse or with your brother or sister about? Barbie in the face. That's a good one. You threw a Barbie at her face, and you're proud of it. Well, she's smiling right now thinking Destiny. That's awesome. Yeah. Any other good brother-sister fights recently? Yes. You threw your phone. There's a lot of throwing themes going on here. Anything besides throwing? Go ahead. Tried to trip you? Oh, that's sad. Go ahead, Kennedy. Mozzarella stick? Oh, nothing up the nose, nothing crazy like that? No? You got it? Go ahead. Oh, wow. So up front here, yes.
Me and my sister were yelling at each other. I don't remember about what, but we were just yelling at each other. And she saw something funny that she was looking at the phone, and she started laughing. And then she told me what it was. And we were just laughing.
So you actually have a sister you like then. You weren't yelling at each other. That's really cool. Can we have the lights up, by the way? Lights 1, 2, 3, since we're not getting to the screen so much.
I don't remember what for.
Okay.
There's been times where we're yelling at each other, and we're yelling at each other. I don't know, so it's just not.
So then all of you can kind of relate to the fact of what it's like. If you hit the 1, 2, 3, 4 on the light switch there, or upstairs, if you're paying attention, you can turn the light switch up and up there too. It's just, you just flip the little things. And that was light number 3. Now try lights 1 and 2. There we go. Excellent. You can leave the stage lights on. It doesn't matter. But that way everybody can read their Bibles. All right? So turn to Genesis chapter 33. And we're going to pick it up where Jacob meets Esau. Now what happened is they've been fighting most of their life. And in fact, they fought so much because they fought over what's called an inheritance or a birthright. And Jacob basically stole or connived or took his brother's birthright. And so Esau was very upset, so upset they thought he would kill him. So Jacob ran away and for many, many years lived somewhere else, married someone else, but decided in his old age to come back to try to make up with his brother. And that's where we pick up the story. He's coming back to make up with his brother Esau after all these years. So Jacob looked up and there was Esau coming with his 400 men. Now think about this for a second. He's going back to see his brother. He had not seen him in over 20 plus years. And all of a sudden he sees not just his brother, but 400 men. Now just picture that. How many of you have gone to a football game recently? Now typically on a football sideline there's 50 guys, okay? That's typical. You know, they have 11 at a time playing each side. They got some backup squads, some special teams. But typically you line about 50 guys on the sidelines. Now picture 400 on the sidelines. And they're all coming at you. And you were coming back to make friends, right, with your brother. And now he brings 400 guys to meet you. Would you be just a little scared or intimidated? I know I would. First I'd be like, where did he get the 400 guys? Second, I'm like, are they after me? What's going on? So he says, this is what he loves us. He says he takes and he divides his children among Leah and Rachel and their 2 maidservants. So basically he married 2 women. I won't get into that story tonight, but it wasn't a good idea. And he married these two women. They had kids. And he takes them and their servants, and he sends them up front. Not a very courageous guy, right? So his brother's mad at him. The 400 guys are coming to him. He takes all of his family and goes, you guys go first. Let's see what happens. So his kids and his grandkids and all these people are heading out. He himself went on ahead and bowed down to the ground 7 times as he approached his brother. So from a long ways off, he bows down, and he bows down to try to show his brother that he's humble. But Esau ran to meet Jacob and embraced him. He threw his arms around his neck and he kissed him. And I love this part. And they wept. And then Esau looked up and saw some of the women and children and says, who are these with you? Now think about that. He had not seen his nieces and nephews. He had not met his sister-in-laws and all of his family could be separated for all these years. So Jacob answered, they are the children God has graciously given your servant. Then the maidservants and the children approached and bowed down. Next, Leah and her children came and bowed down. And last of all came Joseph and Rachel, and they too bowed down. And Esau asked, what do you mean by all these droves I met? Well, he said, to find favor in your eyes, my lord. But Esau said, I already have plenty, my brother. Keep what you have for yourself. See, he'd sent all these different animals up ahead and different peace offerings up ahead. And his brother Esau said, I don't care about any of that stuff. I just care about you. And so, no, please, Jacob said, if you found favor in my eyes, accept this gift from me. For to see your face is like seeing the face of God, now that you have received me favorably. Please accept the presents that I brought to you, for God has graciously given to me all that I have need. Because Jacob insisted, Esau accepted it. And then Esau said, let me be on your way, and I will accompany you. But Jacob said to him, my brother knows the children are tender, and I must care for the ewes and the cows as they nurse their young. If they're driven hard even just one day, they may die. So he comes up with all these excuses, like, what about the animals? If I come with you, what about them? They're slow. And he says, let me leave some of my men with you. And then he's scared. He goes, but why do that? Just let me find favor. So that day Esau started on their way back. Jacob went to Succoth, where he built a place for himself and made shelters for his livestock. And so basically we see the story between two brothers, Jacob and Esau, who've been separated for many years. But somehow they find a way to come back together. Now, when those of you that raised your hand said you fought with your brother or sister, at some point you usually have to forgive one another, right? You have to come back together. Even if they throw something at you, even if they do things that are mean to you. My brother is named Mark, and he's going to be coming back here in just a couple weeks. Some of you may or may not know, but I am flying off to Thailand tomorrow morning. I'm going to Thailand and India and a place called Nepal. I'm also going to go visit some missionary friends over in Belgium that used to be pastors here. And I'm going over there, so my brother's coming to see my mom and take care of her while I'm gone for part of the time. And my brother and I have had this kind of like relationship like most brothers, right? Kind of that tension, the fighting for attention from mom and dad. And so both of us have had that same kind of Jacob-Esau type of relationship sometimes. And I remember when it was probably the worst was when I was starting college, and he had just finished college. And we lived on what's called a family farm, which means for like 6 generations, basically a father gave it to his son, who gave it to his son, who gave it to his son. And now my brother and I were both saying, well, who's going to get to take over the farm? And that's kind of a serious deal. Like, who's going to run the farm? Who's going to spend more time with my dad? And so we had a lot of conversations about this, and they weren't always so pleasant. And finally, my brother got so angry one day, you know what he did? He took off, and he flew to California. He didn't come back. And I thought he was just kind of kidding. I thought, well, he was following this really cute girl. He went out there just to kind of show mom and dad and to show me that that we needed him, and we did, because he was bigger than me, stronger than me. He could farm better than me. But he'd gotten so angry, he went far, far away. And I thought about that because it made my heart almost break. That this guy I took for granted that was around all the time growing up, who I looked up to. He was the football captain in my school. He was the basketball captain. He was a wrestler. He did just about every sport. He was in drama. He could sing. He could play the trumpet. He could do everything. And he was a guy I looked up to all those years. And now he wasn't a part of my life. I remember when we flew out there to try to see him and try to convince him to come back home. He's like, no, Minnesota's too cold in the winter. I got this cute girl we're going to marry. We're going to stay out here where it's warm. And he just basically said, good luck, you and Dad, with the farm and all this stuff. I remember how it just broke my heart because I thought to myself, I'm not just losing this brother, I'm losing really this person that I spent all my time with. And we were like best friends. And I don't know if you've ever gone through that thing where you've gotten in a serious fight with your brother or sister, but you just feel like it just kind of hurts your stomach or hurts your heart. And that's how I felt. One of the cool things that happened, though, was my brother decided to get married. And he said he didn't want to get married in California, he wanted to fly back. And by this time, I had just finished seminary. And he asked me to do the wedding. Now, the wedding part was fine. It's just I didn't like doing the pre-marriage counseling because I'm thinking, this is too weird, right? I can't counsel my older brother. So somebody else did that. And our church had just started CROSSROADS. And so we did the wedding at one of our locations we met at before we had this building. And my brother's been married 15 years since. And the real cool thing about it is when my brother came back, we made up. And so I can really relate to that story of Jacob and Esau, that sense of distancing that happened, but also that sense of really cool thing that happens when you make up. That sense of, you know what, I can put the differences aside. So my message for you tonight is to remind you that family is forever. Family is forever. You're going to have friends that will come and go. And, you know, that's cool. Sometimes you have friends for a lifetime, but many times the kids you're probably sitting next to right now, unless you're your brother or sister, you may not see 10 years from now. But you know what? Your family is forever. And so there are going to be those times when you're going to feel like you don't really care about your brother, or you throw something at him, right? But you still have to forgive each other because families are forever. And what Jacob and Esau had to remember is the promise that Abraham had told them, the promise that Joseph had told them, and said that someday your children are going to be like the stars of the heavens, and they're going to spread throughout the world. But it's only going to happen if you stay together. And so I would encourage you that if you've had a fight with your brother or sister, you had a fight with your mom and dad, or you're struggling somehow in your family, to remember that families are forever, and it's always worth making up. Let us pray. Dear God, we thank you for